Hello, my name is Gauri. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy the video. Please show support by subscribing. Thank you. In this video, we are going to fly to East Africa, particularly Tanzania, to climb Mount Meru and thereafter Mount Kilimanjaro. This particular map I found very interesting because it gives us a very clear picture of both the mountains, Mount Meru and Kilimanjaro, where and how they are situated to the Arusha small town where I stayed at, the Arusha airport, in comparison to that. The central location where I stayed at for climbing Mount Meru and Mount Kilimanjaro was in Arusha at the Arusha Hotel. The hotel I found was historically significant because it was geographically at the very central core of Tanzania. Talking about Mount Meru, so gives us a good idea about some of these peaks that we're going to cover, namely Little Meru, Rhino Point, and Socialist Peak. A point to note here is that Mount Meru is only 1.5 kilometers less in the height compared to Kilimanjaro, and both Kili and Mount Meru are also called sister mountains. Stratovolcano, in other words, it has a kind of like a conical shaped mountain with a summit at the top. You can see quite a bit of Mount Kilimanjaro on a clear day from Mount Meru, whereas next to nil from Kilimanjaro to Mount Meru. I thought that was quite interesting. It is still considered as an active volcano, and the last time it erupted was around 100 years ago. What a spectacular view, Mount Kilimanjaro, taken from Arusha National Park, foothills of Mount Meru. The foothills of Mount Meru is also called Mini Serengeti due to its abundant wildlife such as zebras, giraffes, elephants, buffaloes, baboons, warthogs, just to name a few animals, and of course the countless number of bird species and vegetations, including breathtakingly beautiful flowers. What a fairy tale scenery, a true natural utopia indeed. As far as my eyes can see, giraffes, warthogs, wild buffaloes, elephants, baboons, and other kinds of monkeys, and oh my God, just amazing foothills of Mount Meru, also called Mini Serengeti. In front of us is a surreal scene in the Mini Serengeti, or the foothills of Mount Meru, where we see beautiful zebras freely just roaming and grazing right in front of us. Dangerous and unpredictable buffaloes at the foothill of Mount Meru. This particular area, the foothill, is also called the Mini Serengeti. Only a ditch keeps them away from the hikers. Another stunning picture of these group of giraffes at just an arm's length away. What a wonderful utopian world. Here we have a very clear view of Little Meru, Rhino Point, Big Meru, or the Socialist Peak, and the ash cone from Arusha National Park parking lot. This is the entrance notice to the park in which Mount Meru is part of. Talks about the various highlights that we're going to cover and also what kind of a topography to expect. Like for example, Little Meru would be moorland, and the Rhino Point is also part of the moorland. Final peak we're going to cover is Big Meru, or the Socialist Peak, at 4,566 meters, and the topography is alpine desert. This is what you call a fig tree arch. It is a tunnel-like structure created by elephants gnawing through the tree in search of food. So I'm standing right under the fig tree arch. You can see how large this structure is. In this picture, we see Agostino, the park ranger, and myself with the summit of the Socialist Peak in the background. Our first lunch stop was by a refreshing waterfall, a delicious picnic where I tasted passion fruit for the first time, a buffalo skull, an ominous sign to visitors reminding them why they need a ranger's protection. The front section of the hut is for dining and the rear section divided into small rooms with bunk beds for visitors to use. Due to the low number of visitors to Mount Meru, which is the reason for the presence of increased wildlife, I had the room all to myself. First night's stay was at Miriakamba Hut, a simple but adequate accommodations. Here we see porters carrying personal luggage, food and other camping necessities. Kili from a distance. Due to clear weather conditions, Kili was visible throughout my Mount Meru climb. Mount Meru took 3 nights and 4 days to climb, and the first night camped at Miriakamba Hut, second and third nights at Saddle Hut, fourth an extra long day of almost vertical climb back to the front gate. Below we see the Mirakamba Hut viewed from halfway up to the Saddle Hut. Known as Elephant's Back in Swahili, the climb up to Saddle Hut involves a climb in the shape of an elephant's back. Here we see a picture of a beautiful butterfly. Flowers in tropical countries like Tanzania always have way more intense colors due to the sun. Another beautiful picture of a flower. Tonight's stay at Saddle Hut, similar to Mirakamba Hut, a delicious lunch and a brief rest prior to our Little Meru summit, a 3-hour return trek. Little Meru Peak, the summit at 3,801 meters. View from the summit of Little Meru. Another perspective of the summit of Little Meru. The constantly changing weather allowed various personalities of the mountain to emerge. We are standing at halfway point to the summit of Little Meru, and we see our destination down below for the next day, which is Saddle Hut. We are also looking up at Rhino Point, that going to head over there for a sunrise view of Mount Kili, and above that the mighty summit of the Big Meru or Socialist Peak. Sunset scene from Saddle Hut before turning in for the night. Supper time at Saddle Hut at 11,700 feet. It's going to be a very cold night, so better have some food in and tuck myself into that warm bed and head for a nice sunrise to the Rhino Point to see Mount Kili. Beautiful scene to behold. Sunrise over Mount Kili taken from Rhino Point. After an early start at approximately 4 a.m., we reached the Rhino Point at 12,700 feet at around 6 a.m. The real rhino bones were found at the site, which surprised us since big animals are never seen this far due to the altitude. Standing above the clouds, overlooking at growing sunrise with clear view of the mighty Kilimanjaro, I truly feel blessed. There's my guide and the ranger monkeying around with the rhino bones found at the Rhino Point. And there is me trying to imagine the physical power of the rhino that carried such a heavy skull to this high an altitude. Here's a stunning view of the ash cone where the original site of the eruption was about 100 years ago. And we also see above us the summit of the Socialist Peak. Third day to the summit was mostly climbing and scrambling on rocks, and quite dangerous in fact at many points. It's due to lack of solid protection on one side, as well as the almost vertical elevation of the gigantic unforgiving volcanic rocks, making it for an incredibly dangerous affair. Being the only member of the group, I felt very lucky to have had 100% attention of both the ranger as well as the guide. And a climb to the summit of the Socialist Peak or Big Meru required some free fall rock climbing as well as walking on thin, narrow ridges filled with loose gravel and soft sinking sand, making for a very hard walk. Thankfully, it was not a very windy day. Mount Meru, one of the most beautiful mountains I've ever been privileged to climb, or rather to hike. Those soft, gravelly, sinking, sand-filled ridges we were talking about. A unique, breathless sensation is felt when witnessing life in midst of the most harshest conditions of all. What? We're not there yet? Augustine was a very quiet, responsible ranger, but soon I changed him to be more open, joking, and speaking about life and such. Thanks, Tino, for all your help and guidance. Wow, simply stunning. Another view of Mount Kilimanjaro, seen from Mount Meru on the way to Socialist Peak. One of the most stunning scenery I've ever seen in all of my life, climbing so many mountains. Here we see in the distance the beautiful and mighty Kilimanjaro, and underneath us we see the ash cone from the last eruption. Still climbing. The darkness of the volcanic rocks come alive with brilliant splashes of natural, colorful lichens. A faint but legible markings guide the climbers through these very treacherous landscape. At last, the summit. I have reached the summit of the Socialist Peak, or also known as the Big Meru. A photograph of me and the guide at the summit of Big Meru or the Socialist Peak. Another photograph of me with the signage of the Socialist Peak that states that it is 4,562.13 meters, or approximately 15,000 feet. Augustino, my ranger, also acted as a witness by registering my name in the book stored in a metal box right underneath the Tanzanian flag at the summit. Later, I will receive an official document to celebrate the successful climb to Little Meru as well as the Big Meru or the Socialist Peak. Here I am signing the registry that yes, on that said date that I successfully summited Mount Meru. Finally, time to chill. Dramatic looking ash cone viewed from the summit. Another view of the ridge that I have to go down in order to descend. The ridge that goes right around the ash cone. I was most fortunate to have had the mountain all to myself, only with my ranger and my guide. Hey Jumbo, here's a beautiful picture of our cook and our porter and the guide and of course our wonderful ranger. Tired looking but exhilarated. It was a wonderful experience to climb Mount Meru. The mountain was very tough due to its vertical climb and terrain, but breathtaking and spectacular views kept my spirits up and always thankful for this very privileged opportunity. Goodbye, Mount Meru. Thank you. This is a certificate received for climbing successfully Little Meru on 23rd January of 2007. And this is to certify that I had successfully climbed the Socialist Peak or the Big Meru at 4,562.13 meters on January 24th, 2007.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.